my sunshine turns to rain, whenever my hopes and dreams are aimed in the wrong direction, she's always there, telling me how much she cares. She's always in my hair. She's always in my hair.
Welcome to the Thought Brothers, and we've got a couple guests here. They will introduce themselves. Our topic, I'm Gary Johnson, aka Mr. Producer. Our topic tonight is bonnets in public. Yeah, you heard me, bonnets in public. Is this a culture thing? Is this comfort? We'll talk about it. But let me tell you what happened to me the other day. I'm shopping in the grocery store. I see a woman in front of me wearing a bonnet, pajama pants, house shoes, and it just made me think of something. And I'm like, am I old or something? Because when I was growing up, and I grew up in Washington, D.C., I would never, you could never leave the house looking like that. My mother would have said, you're not walking out this house looking like that. And so the translation is, you're not representing this family in public looking like that. That's what that meant. So, but today, this seems to be a norm. Well, maybe I'm going too far by saying a norm, but I see a lot of it. I'm going to get with you all to see what you all think. But I want to facilitate an honest conversation about bonnets. Is this something that has some culture aspects to it, generational values, how we represent ourselves in public? I know that if you talk to a beautician, and I was in the beauty shop this afternoon, and you'll see some of that, some of the ladies said. Anyway, Monique set this thing off about 4 years ago. Comedian Monique, queen of comedy Monique. And let me just show you what Monique said before we go around the horn. All right, so let's take a look.
Begin to walk through the airport. I saw so many, actually too many to count, and too many for me to tap. But I saw so many of our young sisters in head bonnets, scarves, slippers, pajamas, blankets wrapped around them, and this is how they're showing up to the airport. And I've been seeing it, not just at the airport, I've been seeing it at the store, at the mall. I've been seeing sisters showing up with these bonnets and headscarves and these slippers. And the question that I'm having to you, my sweet babies, when did we lose pride in representing ourselves? When did we step away of, let me make sure I'm presentable when I leave my home? Let me make sure I'm representing the family I created so that if I'm out in the street, I look like I have pride in myself. And I'm not saying no full face of makeup. I'm not saying no full front lace frontal. I'm not saying none of that. All I'm saying is, could you please comb your hair? And if you don't want to comb your hair, they got enough shit out here now, baby, where you can style yourself up and look like you have pride. I'm not saying you don't have pride, but the representation that you're showing, someone would have to ask you to know that you had it. So my sweet babies, for the ones that do call me auntie, I love you for real. Even the ones that don't, I love y'all asses too. But the babies that say auntie to me, please listen to auntie. Always have pride in your representation of you. It's not to get a man. It is just your representation of you, my sweet babies. So I'm just giving y'all a warning. If I see you in the streets, in the airport, in the Walmart, and you got a bonnet on, and you got slippers on, and you looking like, what the fuck? Nikki gonna tap you and say, hey, baby girl, show you what you worth. Show you what you deserve. So all of those posts that you see celebrities putting out there saying, hey, queen, hey, queen, hey, queen, well, can we start putting it into action? So I'm asking our wiser sisters, when we see our little babies out there looking like they just don't care, and I'm not saying y'all don't, It looks like it. Can we just tap them and say, baby girl, you deserve more than what you're showing. Represent you with pride, my babies. And that may be a part of us helping our community. Because if you look like you don't give a damn, how you going to be treated? So when I say, hey, queen, I can only say it to the sisters that it belongs to. Because a lot of us are still in queen training. So if you're in queen training, stop being fearful of taking your position. And queens don't walk around with bonnets and headscarves and slippers and pajamas. That's for the house. When you go outside, represent you, baby, like you are worthy and you deserve the title of Hey Queen.
Woo! All right. Okay. Now, Amber, I'm giving you the first shot. Just 30 seconds. Tell us who you are, and then I'd like for you to respond to what you just heard, and then give us your opinion. Go ahead, Amber.
Sure. Okay. Well, I am Amber. I'm from Prince George's County, Maryland. I graduated from Morgan State, and I respect what Monique said. But at the end of the day, I think that people can do what they want. People need to mind their business. But also, I do agree with you're representing who you are. You're representing your family when you walk out of the house. So I do agree that you shouldn't walk out the house looking like anything. You could grab a cap or something, but if you don't have the time, then you don't have the time. It is what it is. Mind your business. But I mean, I get it. I get the fuss about it, but people should mind their business.
Okay.
That's what I gotta say. That's all I
All
gotta
right.
say.
We'll be back to you, Amber.
That sounds good.
Okay. Mr. Spivey, the researcher, what say you?
You know, it's very hard to disagree with Monique, but
Yeah.
I understand where Amber's coming from. Um, I've been on this earth long enough to see times have changed. Times have changed regarding a lot of things. And back in my day, a woman would never go out with a bonnet on her hair. I mean, there's verbal expressions and there's nonverbal expressions. And when I see a woman out in public with a bonnet on her hair and slippers and in a gown or a robe, it makes me believe she just got out of the bed, walked out of the door, and got in her car. And Amber, I hate to disagree with you, but it's not a thing of mind your business. It's a thing of respecting yourself. And if I'm a young guy and I'm out and I see a woman in robe and a bonnet, I'm not hollering at her because I figure she just got out of bed. And the number one thing that's going to come to my mind, she did not take a shower and brush her teeth.
Okay. All right. Stan, you're our other guest, our guest host. Just give us the 30-second or less on you and launch right into it.
Man, this is a very interesting topic, so much so that I had to consult some of the elders in my family and also the youth in my family. And of course, they have differing of opinion.
Yeah.
Mine in particular is this. I remember about 25 years ago, because I would travel every week, I was in the ATL airport and I noticed something very unique. There was a shift from folks dressing up to take a flight to my vision of yoga pants everywhere. I think what has sparked from there was the pandemic, where we traded, in my opinion, style for comfort. So everyone has an opinion. I do agree. Amber, I do agree. However, I also agree with Brother Spivey in that I'm old enough to know that if you look like that, that's what you represent. And then I always go back to the one in the word that's always true, and that's 1 Timothy 2:9. And I'll let you chew on that a little bit.
Okay. All right. CJ, what say you?
Okay. I think this might be a generational divide because I certainly agree with Amber more than anything. This is a kind of mind your business situation. Like, obviously, you want to have some respect for yourself. Don't, have all yourself covered up and things like that. But if you I don't think someone deserves less respect if they have on a bonnet or some sweatpants in the airport. I mean, like, we're not talking about a job interview or church or something. Like, she's talking about the airport. As someone who travels a lot, there's a lot of practical reasons that I want to be comfortable at the airport. The airport experience is not a pleasant one, and it is increasingly not a pleasant one in terms of the amount of walking and waiting and things that you have to do. So I understand that people want to be as comfortable as possible when they travel. As someone who travels a lot, I don't want my feet to be hurting, so I might have my slides on, or I want to have my hair not touching everything in the airport or the public transportation or the subway or the metro or whatever. So I might have my hair up. I might not have it in like a do-rag or a full bonnet, but I will have my hair wrapped up so it's not touching all of the things that people's hands are touching and things like that. There are practical reasons that I'm not in a three-piece tuxedo to go travel. It really kind of grinds my gears. I think it was Trump's travel secretary said that as well, where people need to show more respect for themselves and dress up when they travel, when that is not the main issue of travel. There's a lot of issues with travel, and it's not because people aren't dressing up enough. And I don't think people deserve less respect because they're not dressed in a way that you feel is acceptable. Like, you don't know what they do, you don't know what their job is, you don't know what they could be a millionaire or somebody who's just in a hurry or something like that. So I don't think it's worth it to judge random people who have no bearing on your life and judge them based on their appearance, and
Okay.
unless it just affects you that much.
All right. Carlos, you seem to be you're last man standing here. What say you?
All right, I'm going to start with a quote from a great man, and I'm going to end with a quote from a great man. So the first quote is, anybody ever heard of, go back to some college days, Sir Isaac Newton? For every action, there is a reaction. Okay? So, yeah, people have a right to do whatever they want to do. Bottom line. This is the world hopefully that's the country we live in, right? And I have no problem with that. I mean, you do what you want to do. But I do think the reaction is this, okay? You're probably, the person who is dressed like that, again, has the right to do what they want, but they're probably cutting themselves short on several opportunities in life. Let me tell you something. When you run a business, you run a company, run a corporation, or if you just run a cookout, okay, or a gathering at your house, the person who is dressed to the nines, who has the hair looking good, who comes in, gets everybody's attention, whether you like it or not. Good or bad, however you view it, they get the attention, they get the door open. They might even get a job opportunity at the cookout. They might get an opportunity to go to a corporate meeting if they're on the job, because they simply look the part or look more, as you can say, inviting. Again, you can do what you want. But when you're inviting, people want to be with you. They want to be around you. They want to socialize with you. They want to give you opportunities you may not have ever had. And guess what? Like my man Chris Rock said, you might not even be qualified to get this job. You might have got this job because of somebody you know. And that's how life pretty much is. So you can do what you want, but the reaction is going to be you probably are cutting yourself short on several opportunities socially, because if 3 guys thought you were attractive in your bonnet, you probably just missed out on another 10 who probably would have thought you were more attractive without the bonnet. If you're in a corporate meeting, maybe you get 2 or 3 job opportunities. Well, you may have missed out on, 7 or 8 other opportunities because you decided to wear to do the Tiger Woods at the meeting instead of the Denzel Washington, nice suit. So you have to think about it. You can do what you want anytime you want, but there's going to be a reaction. And to end my opening statement, I'll go back to another great man, Dennis Green, coach of the Minnesota Vikings. They are who we thought they were. They are who we thought they were. So think about that, right? So who are you? Are you a champion? Are you a loser? Or you are just an average? But to him, that statement, to me, I always thought about that, right? They are who we thought they are. So your perception matters. So You just have to choose how you want to live your life. If that's cool with you, it's cool. But just remember, we live in the world with other people, not just with ourselves. And we do represent our family. So think about that. I don't want my mama or anybody else coming back from heaven talking about what the heck are you doing, boy? So think about those things. We do represent our family and friends as well. That's my take.
All right.
Can I?
So go ahead.
Yeah, just for a couple of things, I just wanted to respond to a couple of those things. Like, I thought we were talking about like traveling at the airport. I didn't think we were talking about like job interviews. I'm not talking about people showing up to a bonnet at a job interview. And then also, you're assuming that people want attention from other people. When I'm traveling to the airport, I do not want people talking to me. I want to be inconspicuous, get to where I want to be, and then I'll be dressed to the nines and for my opportunity or for wherever I'm showing up for. When I get to the show, from the airport, from New York City, I'll be dressed to the nines. I'll be ready for the opportunities in the network when I want the attention. But I thought we were just talking about like traveling and things like that, situations like that.
No, CJ brings a good point up. I just want to respond to that too. CJ brings an excellent point up. The point I was trying to make is, as you get older in life, the things I do now, I didn't do years ago. And the point I'm trying to make is, you're always on stage, whether you like it or not. You may want to be inconspicuous. You may want to be in a corner. You may want to be to yourself. Sometimes the greatest opportunities in life have come to people who didn't expect them. So all I'm saying is that live your life the way you want to live it. You're not necessarily going for a job interview when you're in the airport, but just think about your life. You're always on stage, whether you like it or not. Somebody's always forming a perception of you, whether you like it or not. And in the end, from what I've seen through my 30 years in management in different businesses, or 30 years of social events, okay, so whether it's management, social, family events, etc., you're always on stage and people are always perceiving you. And the people who usually have the best perceptions of thought of them usually are the most successful in life. And maybe that's not always, but a huge majority of people are successful based on what other people think. A long time ago, I had a guy talk to me today about this, but before we had, such an advanced software system for hiring, the old school way to hire somebody was, and he told me, he said, when I used to hire people as a manager for 30 years for the federal government, before we got so technologically advanced, your job was offered to you pending references. Okay. So he literally would call people and ask. He said, the lady said, I used to work at McDonald's. Why'd you call my supervisor? She said, I'm trying to figure out who you are. I said, I know you interviewed well. Now, this is the way it used to be done, okay? But it all comes back to perception. I want to find out if you're going to show up on time, if you're going to be dressed appropriately. And these are the things this literally a guy said to me today. And I said, I understand that. And I do understand that. So I think it's all about perception. Live your life the way you want to live it. Do what you want to do. You may not be thinking about a job interview when you're walking through the airport or the grocery store. But if you run into the owner of a company who needs somebody and they see the way you're dressed when you're walking in one of these places, or they see the way you present yourself, the way you act towards other people, the way you socialize, that might be the ticket that can change your life. I think we just talked about what, Jake from State Farm.
All right. Hold up, Carlos. Hold up. We've been joined by LaKisa Taylor. Now, LaKisa, before I get back to the panel here,
Yes.
because you joined late, I'm just going to jump you. Here we go. You ready?
Okay. Hi, everybody.
All right. This is LaKisa. You get a chance for 30 seconds to tell us who you are. But here's the deal. Wearing bonnets in public, yes, no, or it depends. What say you?
I'm going to say definitely not. I am LaKisa Taylor Allston. I'm here representing the Marriagepreneurs podcast. And as far as the topic of tonight, I am going to say a definitely not.
Please explain. Go ahead. Say more.
So, when I look around, and it's not just the bonnets, it's other things. We are in a state of comfort culture. It has now affected even the types of styling and everything that you see in the store. I'm a church girl. It's hard to find a nice silhouette sheath dress, A style dress, to wear a conservative look to even go to church in. And so it has become a cultural thing that has affected us in our everyday society. And when it comes down to, of course, yes, job interviewing, meeting with people, trying to build relationships. If you want people to take you seriously, wearing a bonnet I just don't see, even I'm an entrepreneur, a business professional, been doing this for over 20 years. I can't take you seriously if you're showing up with a bonnet on your head or even in an unkept look. You can have the locks, you can have other things. If right now bathing is a low priority for people. When you and I can see that even coming just Sunday in church. I just wanted to talk to pull these gentlemen to the side or ask one of the deacons or the trustees to pull them to the side and say, listen, when you come into the house of the Lord, this is where we're supposed to give, our best. So now we are really just we're just going to roll up, wake up and roll out the bed type of culture. And it's a bit sad to me these days.
Okay. I'm going to jump back with Mr. Spivey and then Amber, because Amber, I'm reading your body language. You have something else to say. So, Mr. Spivey, come on in.
Well, I'm gonna go back. CJ talked about the airport. The comment I gave initially, I was not even talking about the airport. I was talking about in general. Give you a prime example. Today, my wife and I were at LensCrafter over in Waldorf, and she was picking up her glasses, and it was really funny because I had told her at breakfast. We had breakfast out at First Watch about what the podcast was going to be about tonight. And so I was not even looking. And she said, "Oh my God, turn around." And I turned around. It was a lady, had on a bonnet. It was a dollar store bonnet. She had on a pair of pajama pants, pajama top, and she had on a long coat. And everybody in LensCrafter was giving her the eye, not directly. And so, when you come out looking like that, it says a lot. I'll go back to what I said before. It says a lot about what you're all about. I mean, it looked like she had just jumped out of bed, put on well, she probably had the bonnet on because a lot of women sleep in bonnets. She jumped out of bed, she put on a pair of Nikes, she put on a coat, and she came to LensCrafter.
Okay.
And I just think it sends a bad look. And I know that we're in a time now when people say, mind your business. Back when Carlos, when you were growing up, Gary, when Stan was growing up, we would never tell an adult, mind your business. No, it was just not like that.
Okay. Amber, come on. Your body language is talking to me.
Sorry, I mean, I honestly do agree with everything that's being said because it's a respect. I think I've already said this. It's a respect thing. You respect yourself, you respect the environment that you're in. But people have the right to do what they want to do. Look, I have a degree. I've been in wonderful places. If I decide that today ain't my day, and I'm not, look, personally, I don't do this, but if I ever did decide to walk somewhere and I have my pajamas on, I'm still going to demand respect because of the way that I carry myself. It is what it is. I'm not going to walk around with those Cookie Monster pants on. But if I wanted to, I'm gonna look. If I wanted to, I would, and I would still expect respect because that's just the way that I carry myself. And if somebody decided to judge me on that, that's between them and whoever they believe in. That's not my business. So I do understand I understand all of the cultural expressions about respecting yourself in public and just showing who you are by way of how you carry yourself. But carry yourself in a way that it doesn't even matter what you have on. Because sometimes I got my cleavage out or something. It's like I'm still a respectable young woman with a degree and a wonderful job. I'm respected wherever I go because the way I carry myself. If I have on pajamas, which I won't, I'm so sorry. But if I had on pajamas, I would still expect respect. Hello?
Amen.
I hear you.
Hey, let me throw something in there real quick. I just thought about something because I don't know. History was my best subject in school. I'm not sure why, but anyway.
Oh, I see
The-
a move. Go ahead, Carlos. But
so the
I
whole
want to
point
get,
I'm trying to
I want
make
to get a
behind this
mood in here.
statement is this: the oldest form of discrimination in the entire world is how you're dressed.
Mm.
Think about that, right? That goes back to Roman times. That go how you represent when you step out. It's just it's maybe a worldwide. I guess it is a worldwide culture thing. If you check your history books, that's just the way it goes down. I do agree. I'm very liberal. I think people should be able to do whatever they want whenever they want. But again, I'm with Newton. There will be a reaction for what you do. Like nothing in this world is free. Like you can do whatever you want, but there's always going to be some type of reaction. But again, think about that. If the oldest form of discrimination in the world is how you dress and how you present yourself, are you still really helping yourself out by doing whatever you want, whenever you want? You got
Okay.
to think about that.
Let me jump in real quick, Gary, if you don't mind.
Come on.
This happened just yesterday at the Houston Rodeo, St.
Yes.
Patrick's Day, and they invoked a new dress code. And that dress code says if you are dressed inappropriately, you will be required to either leave or purchase clothing to cover yourself. That dress code has also been invoked at Disney, where I, reside. So these dress codes are starting to become popular, and companies are going to start doing this more and more. Yes, you have the freedom of expression. However, that expression should not interfere with the joys and in a family environment. And someone said it earlier, bonnets are designed to protect your hair at night. And I understand if you have an event that you don't want your hair disheveled before you go out the next time, you may have a reason of protecting your hair. That's why there's this thing called a scarf. You can dress it up. You don't have necessarily have to wear a bonnet in public, pajamas in public, slippers in public. When I see it, it sends a bad, I'll just be honest, it tells me something about that person. It tells me, um, you know, they're going through something either. And I think some psychologist said something about there may be a form of depression that is there if this is a constant, if this is a norm for that particular individual.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I see a move. You
Yes.
slid on in the screen here, my brother. So
How you doing?
I'm all right. Give us 20 seconds. Well, let's get you in. Let's give us
Yeah,
about 20
yeah, I'm
seconds
sorry.
about who you are, and
All
then
right.
give us your take.
All right. So again, my name is Amu. LaKisa is my wife. I am the second half of the Marriagepreneurs. I'm an independent contractor, general contractor. So that's the business that we do. My take, and I found it interesting. Kisa mentioned that you invited her on tonight. My take on the bonnet thing, and I totally respect Amber, and I totally agree that whatever you have on, you should be respected. You should not be disrespected. But like the other gentleman said, me personally, when I leave out my house, I want to be the best version of myself. Now, I'm not all put together all the time, but when I leave out, I want to be the best version of myself. In addition to that, the whole bonnet thing, in in some scenarios, we are already viewed in a way. And so if we add to that perception by coming out in the bonnet, pajamas, slippers, raggedy pants, then you're just reinforcing that perception, right? And not to say that it's justified because we're all human, we are, and we're all equal at the end of the day. But for me, I just emphasize the importance of being kept. The other take, well, presentable. She said presentable, kept, presentable, same thing. The other thing for me is that I encounter different people, single women, and a lot of single women talk about how they have a hard time finding good men. And and some of them I see they out in bonnets. You never know what scenario you're gonna find that person in, right? And so if you out in your bonnet, and it's just not becoming to be, you know what I mean? So it's a number of different reasons why I just don't feel like it's appropriate to be out in the public in your bonnet and your pajamas. So, and that was
Okay.
just what I wanted to add.
All right. this topic, what I found is, like I said, I went to the beauty salon a couple hours ago and just walked in there and just told the ladies that we'll be talking about this topic tonight. All everything stopped and everybody had an
I'm
opinion.
so sorry.
So we'll see what happens here. Now, here's what I've heard. Choices have consequences. I've heard that. I've also heard that, you know, and what raises the question, are Black people judged more harshly for wearing bonnets than other folks? When I was in the beauty salon in the barbershop today, one of the barbers had an opinion, and I'm going to put that in the podcast, and there was a white guy in the chair. He was the only white guy in the whole shop with the brothers. And I'm sure he was getting schooled on what was going on in the barbershop about bonnets. But my question to you all, are we being judged more harshly?
Well, you know, Gary, you all call me the researcher. And one of the things that I say a lot of times about things that people do, they don't know the history of it. It goes back to guys wearing their pants down where you can see the underwear. People don't realize that was a thing that started in prison. And when a guy walked around with his pants hanging down and his drawers showing, he was letting other prisoners know he was available. The same thing with these bonnets. A lot of people don't know that when the Africans were captured and brought here to the United States, the slave masters used to make the women slaves wear bonnets to embarrass them. And in, I think it was 1876, the governor of Louisiana required all free Black women to wear what was called a tignon, which was a head wrap that made them different from white women. And white women were the ones that pushed the governor to do that because they felt that the Black women with their skin and their hair was going to be attracted to white men. So, you know, a lot of times I've said before on this show, if you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it. And so when you asked about the bonnets and that type of thing, a lot, and I went on to my co-pilot because I use co-pilot religiously, and I asked her about this particular same subject that I'm talking about, and she gave me basically the same information. So I know it was no AI false information. So, you know, a lot of times if you don't know the history of something you're doing, you just don't know how embarrassing it will be. And Amber, you know, you talk about respect. I think all Black women should be respected, but respect is earned. And when a person sees you dressed in a certain way and looking a certain way, you might know that you graduated from Morgan State. You might know that you're a proud Black woman, but do they view you the same way? You know, it's just, I'll give you one last thing I'll say. I had a godson, and this was years ago, and you had to be careful a lot of times when you say things. But he was getting ready to go to college, and I made a joke and said, when you graduate from get ready to graduate from college, if you have a 4.0 average, I'll buy you a car. Talking out my butt. Well, lo and behold, come May, he was getting ready to graduate. His mother called me and said, I'm going to send you something. She sent me his transcript. I didn't know. When I was in school, the most you get was a 4.0. He had a 4.8. I didn't know that they had gone that high. So needless to say, I had to buy a car. And she said to me, she said, you know, he's getting ready to go on a big interview because he was graduating in marketing. And he had the dreadlocks. They were down to his shoulders. And so I said to him, I said, I'm going to tell you something, and you can take it for what it's worth. I said, you're getting ready to go on an interview with a Fortune 500 company. I said, if I saw you at night and I was walking down the street, at 10 o'clock, I would cross over to the other side of the street. I said, and I got a gun. I'm a retired FBI agent. I would cross over. I said, you are a general person, but you're judged by your perception. I said, and you're going on this interview with this Fortune 500 company. I said, they don't have to discriminate against you. I said, but think about this. Are they going to want you in a boardroom with their other Fortune 500 people that they deal with? I said, and I'll leave it at that. So you think about it. Well, make a long story short, his mother called me, it must have been a week later, and she said, what did you say to him? I said, what do you mean? She said, he got a haircut. I said, he got a haircut. She said, yeah. He ended up, she had been trying to get him to cut his hair for close to a couple of years. He went on that interview and he got the job. I don't think he would have gotten that job with that Fortune 500 company, and they wouldn't have cared that he had a 4.6 average.
Okay. You know what? You got something, LaKisa?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think this is the conversation for me, and this, I consider myself a hybrid. Like, I'm a Gen X, you have the baby boomers, and you have the millennials now who probably would have the opposite way. And I hear the story, Mrs. Bobby, I understand it. But at the same time, these companies, for me, it's about two things that we have to recognize here. One is the perception as Black people that we have more of a problem with than some of the way people are carrying themselves culturally. Because culturally, these Fortune 500 companies, they want how some of the young Black people are looking nowadays, to sell their products, to be influencers, to sell their brand. My thing is, when it comes, I mean, the bonnet is a personal cross the line for me. What are you saving your curls for if it's not to go out? I just don't understand it. But we can't make the bonnet be the representation of everything cultural that may not seem that a person is not serious or unsuccessful. I have two investor clients. You would think they were the Yin Yang twins.
Mm-hmm.
They are well off in their 30s. They're two young Black brothers, and they are, as people say, doing the doggone thing, and you wouldn't necessarily know it. So, but they don't look like they are in that comfort culture necessarily. So there's a difference, I think, between the comfort culture or the get out of bed culture than it is the personal representation of yourself. So I think we need to have clarity there, because I've heard that story, Mrs. Spivey, from so many people in your age group. It doesn't always work necessarily. I mean, and the times that it does is great. But then there's a time in a day now where that is not necessarily the case.
No, LaKisha, you're right. It does not always work. But what happens, and Carlos can probably comment on this because he's in management position, they can use that type of appearance as a silent discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard for you to say, you discriminated against me because I was wearing a bonnet or because my hair was long or whatever. And they can use that a lot of times as a silent discrimination. But like you say, a lot of things have changed in 2026 that were not the same in 2020 when he was getting ready to go on that interview.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Maybe the bonnet debate that we're having isn't really about bonnets solely. Maybe it's about something deeper in terms of how much pride people take in presenting themselves in public spaces, which leads to the question, is wearing a bonnet in pajamas a harmless expression of just being comfortable or a sign of declining standards or self-respect? I don't know. But I want to go around and give everybody, each one of you, an opportunity to just close out with whatever you want to say about this topic, because it is thought-provoking. And I think it's clearly generational in some aspects, but I get, and I think Amber was the one to put it out here on the table, but we'll go around. Everybody should be respected regardless of how you dress. I don't think we disagree with that. So CJ, I'm going to start with you so everybody can get their statements. Talk to us.
I think there was, like I said, a lot of wisdom dropped. I think I agree largely with most of what everybody said. I think you should respect yourself when you go out. I personally wouldn't do, some of those things. Like I'm not a go out in pajamas type of guy, even if you want to be comfortable. I'm very much into being comfortable, but I think there are limits and standards. Like you want to act like, get dressed, get out the bed, get yourself at least somewhat together when you're, going to be going out the house to be presentable. But at the same time, I think the generational divide is, I think maybe just the millennials and the younger generations are just a little bit less judgmental of other people because I don't feel that somebody else wearing a bonnet is my problem or a societal issue. I understand that, I think it was a great point that Black people especially will be judged more harshly and, seen and perceived as ghetto. So again, as you guys said before, which is a great point, every action has a reaction. You can do what you want to do, but it is going to affect the way people perceive you. But at the same time, if I see somebody looking ghetto in a bonnet or something, I don't know their story, and I'm not gonna, waste my time and energy psychoanalyzing them, worrying about whether, what's going on with them. I'm just kind of minding my business and, gonna treat everybody with respect, regardless of how they're dressed. So it's not like a huge issue, and it doesn't seem like something that is like distressing for me if I see somebody in a bonnet. Might look a little ghetto, I might say something and be like, okay, interesting choice, but it's like it's not for me to judge this person or to I don't know what they got going on. I don't know where they're running from or what circumstances, and it's not really my business to judge them. And it's taking my time and energy to judge them on their appearance when it just has nothing to do with me. So like I said, I agree with a lot of the points. I just don't feel like it's as big of an issue as maybe other people feel it is.
Okay. Carlos and then Stan.
Yeah, you know what? This is sort of weird. Well, I'm listening to all the different perspectives, and I agree with pretty much like CJ said with pretty much all of them. But I'm almost starting to think it's not even a generational divide. I think it's more like you do different things in your 20s than you do in your 30s than you do in your 40s, 50s. I think it's not necessarily generational versus the 1960s, 70s, 80s. I'm thinking it's more like certain stages in your life. When I'm in high school and college, man, I probably went out with some flip flops and some old football pants, sweatpants with holes, whatever. I don't know. But I wouldn't do that now, So I think we have to just take a look at it. One of the smartest men I ever knew in my whole life said, son, there's a time and place for everything. Know the time and know the place. And then you'll be able to seize the moment. So, and I still, and when he told me that, I'm thinking to myself, like I said, maybe when I'm walking through an airport or a grocery store, I'm not expecting to see anybody who I want to be to myself. But you're always under a microscope, especially if you obtain any success in life. You're really going to be under a microscope. Whether you're the teacher of the year in your county, or whether you're the manager of the year in your job, or whether you're just a community activist, you just can't do whatever you want sometimes. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but again, going back to what that great man told me, there's a time and place for everything. Know the time, know the place, and seize the moment. That's just my take. So.
Okay. Stan the man.
I just have a couple, just rounding, thoughts about this because I think it's an important topic. We know that Monique suffered a great bit of backlash from her attempt to help the community. There's a rapper, I won't mention his name, but there's a phrase that he uses in a song and it says, it's okay when they do it, but it's a problem when I do it. I believe that there's sometimes we, as a society, we see people with their what I call work bonnet. People in the food service industry, chefs, doctors, and even sometimes nurses. They wear head covering, and sometimes they're rushing from home, going to the store, and you see that. And sometimes people see certain things and they think, "Hey, is it okay for me to do that as well?" Um, that's one thing I'll just talk about. Sometimes we emulate what we see and we try to repeat those things. And on another note, this goes back to what Brother Spivey was talking about, and Brother Carlos, in fact. We talk about that halo effect. how the perception of what we put out there represents what we want other people to see in us. And I see it as a business owner. I see it as a person who shops in stores. So if I wanted, and I'll put it in air quotes, if I wanted to do something less than above board, I would dress in a manner that would deviate from people paying attention to me. If you follow my drift, I will wear a three-piece suit if I'm going into a store to commit some sort of a crime. However, if you walk in with pajamas, with the bonnet, not fully presentable, in my opinion, you're going to have that, what I call microscope on you, and people will assume that you're up to no good. So, especially if you walk into a store that sells items of higher value, if you will, not necessarily quality, but higher cost, if you will. So, I'll leave it at that. I think it's a great topic. And thank you for allowing me to give you my 2 cents.
Okay, let's go to the marriagepreneurs, Amu and LaKisa.
So I think I just feel like it's a cultural shift that's happening in general. Um, because even someone mentioned when you're going out to what used to be considered a fine dining restaurant, and you still go on the website and it says dress code, and we will get dressed up. And when you're sitting there, it may be a gentleman with flip-flops on and a lady in a bonnet. At down, we've seen it before. Um, so there's an attitude, and it is all age groups. I think there is a certain part of our culture, again, that's more afraid of the perception when we go in the airports and we're doing these things in life. We don't want to deal with this kind of low level thinking or being perceived in that way or being put in that group just because someone who looks like our peer is in that group. But culturally and socially, things are changing beyond, I think, where we ever thought it would be. And that's something that we have to wrestle with in all stages and factors of our life. Think about the last wedding you went to, and the bride wanted everybody to wear black tie. We don't even know what that means anymore. You know, we don't know what formal versus semi-formal means any longer. Part of it is we're not teaching it. It's not being passed down. So that's some of the things that's hurting us as far as reinforcing having the self-respect. You know, we've turned come as you are in church to come as you are, when it was literally talking about the condition of your heart, not your clothes. But that's that's a Bible study for another day. But that's the kind of things that we do culturally that we've now accepted in our society. And this is where we are today. So I think it's gone beyond where we want it to be. I hope that, you know, we can influence those who can influence others. I mean, the story Mrs. Spivey shared, when we can, to even if it doesn't make a difference to you getting a job, have it make a difference to you and how you want to present yourself.
Okay, thank you. Amu.
All right. Well, my comment, I think, is more in line with both CJ and Carlos. I personally feel like one, the younger generation is more relaxed um and don't mind, you know, coming out in bonnets and pajamas and stuff like that. I think that like Carlos said, for me, I don't think I ever went out that relaxed, but for me, it came a point in my life where certain things I just knew I wasn't going to do anymore. So I think it does have something to do with the generations, but also, yes, personal come to terms with what's acceptable for me and what's not. Also, and finally, I'm gonna close with this. I was in line with what Stan was saying, because my first thought is, if I walk into the Gucci store or one of those high-end stores, and I've got raggedy clothes on, or I just don't look kept, then yes, it's going to be more eyes on me, and then what? I'm going to feel like I'm being discriminated against or being targeted because of what? Because I'm black, right? But simultaneously, I have to look at the reality of the situation. I have to look at the reality that I just don't look the part. I don't look like I can purchase something from the store. So, and that's just a harsh reality that we have to live with. And so for me, it's more about how I want to be treated, how I feel about myself, because I just don't like to go. I go into stores now, and if I feel some kind of way, somebody's targeting me, um, then I feel some kind of way. So if my posture, if my attire is adding to that, then that's just not where I want to be. And I'm gonna close with that. I know we're wrapping up. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Amber, and then we're going to let Mr. Spivey tie a ribbon on this thing, at least for now. Go ahead, Amber.
Well, I'm just very happy that everyone has an opinion about the situation. I think that is wonderful that people are able to carry themselves how they want, dress how they want, bonnet or not. I just think that people can do what they want. And if someone is wearing a bonnet and they're holding themselves in a way that looks like they don't care, then maybe they just don't. And it is what it is. But if someone's wearing a bonnet and they have their head held high, then I'm proud of them. That's that's all I have to say. That's all I have to say.
Okay, Mr. Spivey, close us out, sir. You're on mute. You're on mute. Get off mute.
I'm going to go back to an old saying, which has no validity today. But I was always taught first impressions is a lasting impression. And so when somebody sees you in a bonnet and pajamas and they don't know you, that's a first impression. I know Carlos and Stan probably have heard the old expression also, you're judged by the company you keep. And so, my closeout will be times have changed. And as Keisha said, things have gotten so relaxed that I don't know if they'll ever go back to the way they were. I think it was probably a year, 2 years ago. My wife and I were in church, and it was several people in church in Nike warm-up suits. And I said to my wife, I said, tell me a place that you know of that requires a person today to wear a shirt and tie. And she thought about it. And she says, nowhere. And she said the same thing that Keisha talked about. She said, there's no such thing anymore as formal and semi-formal. And so I'll close with first impression is a lasting impression. So it's quite on what kind of impression you want to give.
Okay. Well, folks, we call this show The Thought Brothers. We have our guests on, and I'm sure when this show airs, we will have some opinions. And so until then, I'm Gary Johnson for The Thought Brothers. I really want to thank our guests for coming on. And until next week, we're out of here. Hang on, everybody. Hang on for a
Good
minute.
night.
Good night, folks.
So, Erica, how do you feel about women and men wearing bonnets in public?
Don't do it. If you're going outside and you have the bonnet on in your house, snatch it off your head before you walk out the door, please. And that just don't look right at all. Please, for real. It looks tacky.
Is that on men or women?
Both. Both. if I have one on, I snap mine off before I go out the door. Cause why? What are we doing? What are we doing? That's like wearing pajamas outside, going to the store. Take that thing off your head, please. Please, like Monique would say, my babies.
I'm bald, so I'm not wearing a bonnet, but I've
But you
been
wear a
told.
stocking cap.
No, I've been told, and I'm in a salon, that bonnets are good to protect the hair.
Yeah, but when you in the house,
I'm just getting
when
clarity.
you in the house, when you outside, you got a hairstyle you try to show off. Show the hairstyle off. Why you covering it up outside? You covered up when you in the house going to sleep.
I just thought I'd put it out there.
Okay.
You gave me my answer.
That's it.
What else? What about men?
Yes, sir. A couple inches.
Men the same way. That's the same way. They don't need to be wearing that thing at the door either. For real. Don't wear it outside.
When it comes
You got
to
you.
a man wearing a bonnet.
Hang on. Oh, okay, all right, go ahead. Just your voice. Go ahead, just speak up.
Yeah.
When it comes to a man wearing a bonnet outside, I question, is he straight or not?
No.
Uh-oh.
Questioning his gender.
Okay.
But no, it's for
First
real.
question I ask myself, is he straight? What's he doing?
Okay.
What he got going on?
But I get the bonnet thing, but like I said, before you lay down, that way your hair does not get distorted, out of shape, messed up. But you got the hairstyle for a reason to show it off outside. Take off the bonnet so you can show off your hairstyle.
So you agree with Monique?
You get babies. Don't let me have to tap you on your shoulder.
Okay.
A string or something.
All right, so Erica, you just got finished. You know, when you get home, you gonna put your bonnet on?
When I get home, I'm gonna put my bonnet on. My bonnet on in the house.
Not till she get in.
Not till I get home.
So we ain't gonna see you in Publix or any other stores with, pajama bottoms?
Never.
Okay.
Never.
Okay, all right. All right, Train, what's your take on bonnets being worn in public?
Bonnets being worn in public by the ladies.
And men. We don't want to discriminate.
Well, men wearing bonnets in public, that's just I think it's for attention.
All right, speak up. For attention?
Yeah, for attention, man. Men, come on, man. Most men are conscious about how they look in public. You know what I'm saying? Anything outside of that, it's just like wearing a dunce hat. You know what I mean? You just want somebody to look at you so you can have something to say when they say something. But when it comes to women, my take is my take. So I don't know how many women might say my take is wrong or right, but it's right to me. I think most women, right? Now check me out. I think most women, when they come outside, period, especially if they look good, you know what I'm saying? And they got nice bodies, and I'm going extreme up what I think. They get a lot of attention on the regular, you know what I mean? And some of that attention is unwanted. You see, they come outside, they want to look good, they wear the tight clothes, they wear the makeup and the long pretty hair with the braids, and they want to look good and they want to be, they want people to look at them, but not everybody. You know what I'm saying? So when that morning comes and they got to run outside real quick to go get something and run back in the house, or something they might have forgot when they made breakfast, they don't want that attention. So they just put anything on. Cause you ever hear a woman say, when you say, "Hey, how you doing, baby? You look nice today." "Oh, I ain't even make my fat. I'm looking like a bum today." They always say that, right? That's because they do it on purpose. They don't want no attention at that time. They want the attention later on. But what they mess up is, men ain't like that. Men see past that bonnet and the pajamas If they want to talk, they're going to talk. But I believe that. That's why they do that. They do that so they won't have to get all that attention. Because when they, in the middle of the day, when they got the makeup and they hat down their back and they got them clothes on, when they get out their car and go where they going, they be strutting, don't they? They be walking slow and they be throwing it. But when they got them bonnets on and them pajamas, they be walking fast, don't they? So I know why they do it. That's why.
Bonnets by train.
Yeah.